In my hands right here, I have every single blueprint from every set, miniature, figurine, any creature, anything to do with the magic of Star Wars. The creation of the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy is all here in this book. It's called the Star Wars Blueprints. This book has been in my possession for a few weeks now. I went to my local store, my local Vinnie's. That is, for anyone who's not in Australia, Vinnie's is just like one of those charity stores. People dump all of their like secondhand goods and so on, and the store sells them all, and all the profits and everything to do with that store goes to a charity. I think it's like the St. Vincent de Paul. I might be getting it wrong, but I got this one for a bargain deal. This is actually, like, genuinely, this is insane. This retails for $150. Now that's AUD. This is not USD. I'm not in America. AUD, which is probably about five American hearty potatoes. No, Irish potatoes, like solid Irish potatoes. I got it for $20. I kept this on to show you guys. I got this for $20. How insane is that? I've been so excited to show this. I've been waiting. Obviously, we're at the tail end of Skeleton Crew now, and everything's kind of, calmed down. I can start doing the stuff that I've wanted to show you. This is nothing short of magic. This has just awakened my mind into the beauty of Star Wars again. It's made me fall in love with this whole universe over and over again. Every page I turn is just like, it's the DNA of Star Wars. I'm so excited to show you guys this one. So just a quick disclaimer before I get into this video. If you see all of the orange tags here, this goes from the start of the book to, for like concepts and so on, to the original trilogy and then the prequels. This doesn't have anything to do with the sequels. I'm not upset. I'm not upset about it, mainly because I think everything to do with the prequels and the original trilogy was just, the physicality of it was so perfect. I think the sequels relied so heavily on CGI and all that kind of stuff that the practicality it wasn't the same. So what I've done is I've organized this from all these different concepts. I've added some bonus stuff in there, stuff that didn't really need to be talked about too much, but I thought was really, really interesting. All the way from A New Hope to Revenge of the Sith. So if you like this kind of stuff, please do me a favor, chuck me a like down below. Comment down below at the end of this video what you think is your favorite blueprint. This is genuinely something which is a holy grail. This is going to be a staple in my collection for the rest of time. I've been so lucky to find this. I can recommend this to every single person. If you see this around, or even if you just go purchase it online, this is a staple, genuinely a staple. I will never ever meet a Star Wars fan that I won't recommend this to now. Like, this is genuinely perfect. So I hope you guys like this one. Let's get into the very first one where we talk about the early life pods. In this one, what really got me excited was the concept of it originally was called the podcasts, which I thought, oh my God, Joe Rogan Experience mentioned, rah! You know what I mean? No, it's not. They were originally going to be called podcasts. So let's get into the early version of the life pods.
So at the inception of these early podcasts, or life pods as we know it now, what they actually intended to have is these life pods were going to be in between scene transitions. So our heroes were going to go in between spaceships. There was going to be a lot more intergalactic travel. You can actually see that there were landing gears that were built into these life pods. And even in these early depictions, you've got humans instead of all of the robots that we know now. So, it's kind of interesting to see how the practicality of something like this actually plays a part in the creation of the story. I think you'll see that's like a massive trend all throughout, just trying to fit the story around the props that they're able to use, obviously with a limited budget. Also, another really cool thing was actually the guy who designed this he saw this 2D drawing that these people had made. He'd been brought in. His name was Steve Gowley, and he basically just brought these 3D concepts to life for so many different things. And he saw what was the early podcast and he goes, oh, that kind of looks like a paint bucket. So he just kind of stretched it out, turned it into this big conglomeration of like spaceship parts. And then, here we have it now. So that's pretty cool.
Enough about the life pods. We're going to talk about the people that kind of showed us life pods for the very first time. I mean, not C-3PO. I'm going to talk about R2-D2.
Robot R2, or R2-D2 as we know him now, was an original design by Ralph McQuarrie based loosely on the old droid from Silent Running. He went through about 3 different variations, which actually were created before A New Hope was even greenlit to become a movie, and they finally ended up on this last design of the droid that we see in the movies. So this one was actually designed to be a fully functioning and operating prop, but in the end it just couldn't work out to be that way. Much to George Lucas's disappointment, they actually had to make him out of wood in 4 separate parts and ship him to Tunisia and hand build him on the set of the Jawa sandcrawler scene. Really interesting part about the astromech droid is for pure functionality purposes, with only having the body of R2, they created the droid head of R5 on the set and actually designed him to be someone that would be able to sit on top of a land cruiser, which in the end turned out to be one of the reasons why droids are attached to ships.
The very next one on our list is none other than the first place that we got to experience a lightsaber. We're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi's cave on Tatooine. Beyond the Dune Sea. Beyond the Dune Sea mention. Quah, quah, yeah!
Cave Dwelling was the production's name for the home of Obi-Wan, or Old Ben Kenobi, played by the incredible Alec Guinness, where the Jedi Knight introduces Luke to the philosophy of the Force and gives him his father's lightsaber. Although Fox had actually greenlit the picture by this point, they demanded high budget cuts at the end of 1975, and it meant that Obi-Wan's dwelling was therefore redesigned in January 1976. At one point, this blueprint actually indicates that Obi-Wan's dwelling was going to be 3 stories high, with a massive balcony, and obviously was diminished due to major budget cuts. Obviously, it didn't affect the scene. I think this scene has actually been the most influential part of Star Wars itself. It's a scene where we get to see the lightsaber, which was designed off of an old camera flash. And we get to see Alec Guinness, one of, at the time, England's best actors working on this movie that had so much promise, so much hope, which is really what this whole show and even the set behind is designed around. Hope. It's a really cool story behind the genius of Alec Guinness and the beauty of working on a set like this. Apparently, the only good thing about the redesigned set was its lighting, and I got to tell you, it absolutely added to the magic of Star Wars and the magic of this specific scene.
Fun fact, Obi-Wan's uncle was actually one of the X-Wing pilots, which is why I want to talk about right now the X-Wing fighter.
The X-Wing is not only the most important ship in Star Wars, but it is absolutely the most recognizable one. But it didn't begin as a starfighter, it began as an idea born from necessity. To create a ship that's versatile enough to outmaneuver Imperial forces, resilient enough to take a hit, and powerful enough to strike a decisive blow, it faced challenges in every single step of production. Now, the design of the X-Wing was actually created by multiple people all over the world, from different stages of ILM all the way over to the physical production of the ship to create what we know now. This ship has been donned by some of our biggest heroes, from Luke Skywalker to even Poe Dameron, if I have to say the sequel trilogy. But this ship has brought us through every single stage of Star Wars. It's a symbol of hope. I remember watching in Mandalorian Season 2, seeing the X-Wing of Luke Skywalker float through, realizing the power of this ship. And it's through the design of this that you can see that elegance, that power, and that resilience built into the physical design of this ship. It's an amazing feat of engineering that they were able to create the physicality of this. But if you get to see in the actual hangar, the Rebel hangar, they designed this with a matte painting. So most of those X-Wings aren't actually there in the physical shot. They're put on in post-production, where they had a person who painted every single X-Wing by hand for the people on the screen.
To be able to witness something like the X-Wing for the first time is genuine magic. But if you guys have had dogs, if you have kind of, I think it's called like a Baskerville Hound or something, I think that's a Shakespearean thing. But we have the next one that sounds exactly like one of those hounds, like, we have a TIE fighter, people.
Let's talk about the backbone of the Empire's Starfleet, the TIE fighter. Sleek, efficient, and terrifying. The TIE fighter is more than just a starship. It's a symbol of the Empire's dominance. The name TIE stands for Twin Ion Engine, and that's where the magic or menace begins. Originally designed by Steve Gawley in September 18th, 1975, even before there was a chance at being greenlit by Fox. These fighters were designed for speed and agility, able to outmaneuver many Rebel ships in the hands of a skilled pilot. Those hexagonal solar panels, they don't just look menacing, they power the engines, allowing the Empire to mass-produce these ships without relying on costly fuel. But here's the catch. The TIE fighter is stripped down to its bare essentials. No shields, no hyperdrive, no life support system. This ship wasn't built for comfort or survival, it was built for dominance. The Empire's philosophy reigns true with this very ship. It is quantity over quality. TIE fighters are designed to swarm their enemies, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. This also says something about the Empire itself. These fighters reflect the cold, utilitarian mindset of their creators. Pilots are viewed as expendable, just another cog in the machine. When you're flying a TIE, you're not expected to come back.
Moving from vehicles that can enter through light speed, we go down to the area of Hoth, where we get to experience for the very first time the ice caves and the ice corridors of the Rebel base on Hoth.
Let's talk about the ice corridors and caves of Episode 5. Ted Ambrose's technical drawings of the ice corridors contain several notes for scenes that were either not shot or which didn't make the final cut. In the shooting script, not only do the Rebels have to deal with the Empire's attacks on their secret base, they are also attacked by Wampa ice monsters. On the blueprint, the Wampas are called Uzem, which were in fact different creatures, but sadly didn't make it into the film. Sometimes the names of these exotic beasts were inadvertently mixed up. Ambrose noted on the technical drawings, Hand of Uzem breaks through the wall of this section of the corridor. Uzem to break through dotted area. In the ensuing battle, Uzem/Wampas were to damage the Falcon, hence its engine problems throughout the story. But when it came to the actual filming, the Wampa costume was so unwieldy that the actor inside, Des Webb, could barely extend his arms. Breaking down the wall was pretty much out of the question. Brian Johnson, the visual effects supervisor, said, "The major problem with the snow creature was being about 9 or 10 feet tall. The operative's arms are only half the length of the snow creature's, so, in effect, he's trying to propel force from the elbows. He couldn't actually push the wall himself. In the end, we pulled the bottom of the wall out, but you're just at the mercy of how the wall breaks up." The most interesting part of this corridor was that it was about forced perspective, all about how the camera sees the cave to be as long and as viciously damaging as possible.
You know what else is cold? Yeah, I know, we're probably thinking the same thing. The refrigerator. No, I'm not talking about the refrigerator. This one, I'm talking about something that does refrigerate samples of snake venom, potentially, maybe, or evil venom. I don't know. I don't know. We're talking about now the medical center on Hoth.
After being attacked and mauled by a hungry Wampa, Luke escapes from the ice creature's cave, and with the help of Han Solo, he returns to the Rebel base, where he's placed in a Bacta tank to heal his wounds. Built on Stage 1, the medical center set had glass sliding doors, a bunk, and a floating wall for camera placement. Its centerpiece was a tank containing 400 gallons of chlorinated water, which British Aerospace, a company experienced in the manufacturing of Perspex cockpits for pressurized aircraft, had actually helped design. At 7 feet 6 inches high and 3 feet and 8 inches in diameter, the tank was the largest of its kind ever made. Now, there's a story that happens with this actual tank. During the filming, there was a bunch of different lights and heating lamps that were placed on the set to make it have that glowing effect of the perspex. But there was one time on set where one of the set coordinators walked in to Hamill sitting there with the oxygen tube in his mouth, and he looked at the perspex and it cracked right in front of his eyes. All of these shards of glass and all perspex went everywhere throughout the tank. It could have been the end to our greatest hero, and we never would have seen his great actions in Return of the Jedi. How crazy is that?
As much as I love that medical center and I think it's genuinely so beautiful, this one is the reason why I bought this book. This next one is genuinely, I mean, if you think about what is inherently Star Wars, this is what you think about. We're talking about none other than the Millennium Falcon.
Episode 5's Millennium Falcon was originally designed to be Han Solo's pirate ship. It's the ship that took us all throughout the galaxy, introduced us to the Force, and showed us multiple different aspects of heroism from the most unlikely heroes. But the most interesting part of this ship is that the Falcon actually had to be reconstructed in Episode 5 and redrawn in part based on the little clips of 35mm film from A New Hope. Because no one had actually anticipated the success of Star Wars, the previous ship had not been properly photographed and catalogued, and the actual set had been left out in the rain for months until it had wasted away to almost nothing. This is the reason why we get so many of these detailed, deconstructed blueprints of this amazing ship. The amount of detail that goes into something like this, where you get to see the size of every single panel, broken down to every living quarter, to every bit of space management possible. It's all to do with that minute mistake of no cataloging of the original ship. It's a pretty cool mistake, but it's a great resource for us as fans and also just lovers of the incredible masterpiece that is Star Wars Episode 5.
Flying into our next one, we have got Vader's meditation chamber. One of the places that genuinely was like one of my favorite parts of the movies. I don't know why. It's just like the one thing that I was obsessed with for so long. I've had images of this chamber on my wall as a kid since before I can even remember. So get ready for this one. I'm very excited. Let's get to Vader's meditation chamber.
Within Vader's flagship Star Destroyer is his meditation pod, also referred to as his chamber, where the dark side equivalent to the Jedi meditation takes place. The set design was by Reynolds, and its teeth-like pod halves contain a floater tooth for camera or lighting access. The script had described the chamber as follows. A dark cubicle is illuminated by a single shaft of light from above. The brooding Dark Lord sits on a raised meditation cube. It was up to the production designer to flesh it out. Now, this design has to be one of my favorites out of all of Star Wars. I've absolutely been obsessed with this design, and I remember as a kid, I just could not get enough of this cube, seeing Vader in there, like this dark, brooding, mysterious villain that needs to recharge like a battery. It's one of the things that adds to my idea of the mythos of Darth Vader. This cube where he could take everything off and be back to his human self. I never knew him to be this big robot man as a half human, half robot. I always saw him as this weapon of mass destruction. And things like this cube just gave me that extra idea of his supreme command of my fear.
Bonus round. We've got an AT-AT, one of the most badass weapons in all of Star Wars. Yes, I called it a weapon, not a vehicle, because it's mainly a weapon. It's a kind of a shit vehicle if you could just wrap its legs around. So let's get to it. Bonus round, AT-AT.
Bonus round, AT-AT, I gotta say, I mean, the design of this is one of my favorites of all vehicles. I love that this is a physical dog-walking design, and this massive painting of this ice plane battle is so beautiful. I mean, I kind of want to rip this out of the book and just take it with me and just put it up on the wall. I love this scene. I think this is just one thing that I really did not want to give up. I wanted to show you guys every single part of this book that I loved, and this is nothing different. I loved the Force perspectives of scale, of people and starships and all these different snow speeders that add to the mythos of this Battle of Hoth. There was seriously something so special about that battle. It's one of the ones that captivated me from the start. I hope you guys like that one.
If there's one place that I think about when I think about the magic of Star Wars, and something that is so inherently the DNA of not just Star Wars, but the Force itself. I just spat everywhere. The Force itself, it is Yoda's house and Dagobah in general. But this one specifically was one of the things that captured my imagination when watching the original trilogy. I mean, come on, it's Yoda's house, it's Yoda. Let's get into it.
The philosophical core of the Empire rests on the shoulders of Yoda, a puppet operated and voiced by Frank Oz, who had been trained as a Muppeteer by Jim Henson. The creation of Yoda's animatronic puppet took place in England through the collaboration between Henson and three of his group, Oz, Wendy Midner, and Kathy Mullen, and makeup artist supervisor Stuart Freeborn, who was sculpting Yoda's face based on McQuarrie's and Johnson's earliest concepts. Simultaneously, Yoda's humble home was being planned down the hall in the art department, which oddly enough, the interior of the Jedi Master's abode was designed before the outsider look of the house was even established. McQuarrie and Reynolds continued their concepts of the exterior well into August 1978. Michael Boone's notes on the interior read, "Areas of floor not permanently fixed are to float in sections of convenient size. Details to be decided. Areas of ceilings to float. An aerial view shows the location of the hut's practical fire and where R2 would be placed outside of the window through which he peeks. The set would be built on Stage 9, where the exterior was part of a much larger Dagobah swamp set that was housed on the Star Wars stage after the hangar and Falcon were moved out, which explains its much longer design schedule. I think I started off with the little models of trees, art department models made out of wire and plasticine, basically just to get a scale of the thing," said Ambrose of the swamp set. "Then we did stage plans. Michael oversaw that when they were actually building the set, and he was there all the time with the dressing of it and everything. Yoda's house was an interesting set," says Reynolds. "I have never done that before. Actually build a set off the ground so that Frank Oz and the Muppeteers could get their arms up and through the floor to operate Yoda. The moment he actually came to life, it was quite... I never had experienced anything like that either." Reynolds adds, still with the wonder in his voice, "It was really quite startling that the lump of cloth and rubber, a sort of plastic face, suddenly assumed a character all its own. I was absolutely knocked out by that."
Pour one out for my homies. Yeah, look, I don't know what the fuck I'm on about, but this one is going to be the main reason why F-boys exist in our society today. It's the first time we got to see Han Solo kind of slick over some charm to Princess Leia. "I love you." I know. What a confident guy. What a dude that you would like to follow to the ends of the chamber. I say the ends of the chamber because we're going to be talking about the carbon freezing chamber.
One of Empire's most iconic sets, the carbon freezing chamber, didn't actually take form until shortly after the principal photography began. Following Lucas's directives, McQuarrie had imagined it as an industrial space, filled with rectangular shapes, but Reynolds had other ideas. "I didn't know quite what to do with that one," he says. "I really laboured on that. I mean, what does a carbon freezing chamber look like, for heaven's sake? And in fact, I had no idea until I actually dreamt it. I woke up one night knowing what it would look like. So I did a very simple little drawing, a little scribble, and I worked with Reg Bream and came up with the idea as it appears in the film, with the central circular set and the various appendages hanging down and the illuminated rises of the stairs. As originally imagined, Reynolds' set design was even more enigmatic, as can be seen in his early drawings and McQuarrie's subsequent paintings based on those concepts. It never materialized, but the idea that was there would be two enormous sort of pipe-like things in limbo with one or two other ones in the vast area of darkness. I thought there might be 3 or 4 of these chambers doing similar functions, so I envisioned one in the foreground with 1 or 2 other ones in the distance behind, illuminating part of the darkness beyond it, just to give it some regression, really, to take your eye farther and farther away. Even in its compromised form, the set was non-traditional. Built on 12 feet of ground, it lacked walls, something that ILM members noted with admiration when they saw it later on, because it was so unusual. Reynolds showed Kirshner the set every week as it progressed.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was playing some jizz. Thinking about Max Rebo in our bonus round. Max Rebo, baby. Let's get into it.
Bonus round, Max Rebo. Gotta love this dude. I love those feet. God, check that out on OnlyFans later on. What I find really, really interesting about this one is that it's actually its own instrument. They full on designed an instrument for this guy. From the red ball jet organ. It's so sick, man. I mean, this one you can easily see playing with your feet. He kind of looks like a little bit of a roast chicken in the bottom part there. But, you know, I love Max Rebo. I love every single part of this design. I think it shows it's a true testament to the creative minds of everyone that was put into the Star Wars set. To create something like this is just genuinely magical, and it just adds to everything to make this seriously the best franchise out there. Yeah, you know, I'm really glad. I did this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
That was my impression of a Rancor. Don't look it up. That was the best impression you've ever heard of. Don't even listen to the movies. They base it on that impression just then. It was pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. George Lucas, he talked to me one day and he's like, Jeremy, you're a cool guy. You're a great guy. You're the kind of guy that I'd like to do an impression of a creature. Yeah, I'm thinking about a powerful creature, an American creature. George Lucas doesn't talk like that. I just wanted to kind of just chuck in a Trump impression. I've been working on my Trump impression. Like, give me a break. I don't have another YouTube channel where I can do this. So, we're going to be talking about the Rancor pit.
Luke's discussion with Jabba doesn't go well, and the Jedi is unceremoniously dropped through a trapdoor into a Rancor pit. Jabba and his minions then gather around above to watch the Rancor, a huge slobbering monster, eat Luke. The Rancor and its pit were accomplished via 3 separate sets. A full-sized Rancor pit built on Stage 1 for the live-action shoot of Hamill and the Gamorrean Guard, a stop-motion Rancor on a miniature set back at ILM and slated for shooting on March 18th and 19th of 1982, and a smaller set on Stage 9 for a man in a Rancor suit with a toy model of Luke for certain key shots. The blueprint of the smaller set notes camera angles, the position of floater rocks, and the dimensions of the rostrum. Lamont's drawings of the chute and the gate leading to the pit, probably built in conjunction with the larger set on Stage 1, includes notes. The gate was to slide up quickly to a position completely clear of the chute shaft. A stunt double would be used in the chute, and the texture of the chute itself should be well worn. Smooth as stone, no doubt because Jabba had sent hundreds down before.
We had a pit here, and now we have a pit here. Double pits? I like armpits. Sniffing them bad boys on a long day after a hard session at the gym. Reminds me of some Kentucky Fried Lovin'. This time we have got one of the most iconic scenes in all of Star Wars. I've said this so many times, but god damn it, there's so many iconic scenes. This one we're talking about the Sarlacc pit. Boba Fett, turn your eyes away. Don't look, because you're about to get swallowed whole. No way. That sounds freaky. I'll have 1 Sarlacc, please.
The Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi wasn't just a hole in the ground. It was a massive production challenge. Filming took place in the Arizona desert, where shifting dunes constantly undid the crew's work. They built a 25-foot-high platform over a deep sand pit, housing storage areas, workshops, and even a commissary beneath it. But the real nightmare? The wind. Crew members would spend all day shaping the fake mountain, only for the wind to blow it away by morning. George Lucas decided the Sarlacc needed to move. Originally, it was just a lifeless pit, but Phil Tippett and the effects team brought it to life using hydraulics and puppetry, with 6 men controlling the tentacles manually. Despite all these setbacks, the final result was legendary. An unforgettable battle. Boba Fett's infamous fall, and one of the most iconic creatures in Star Wars history.
Yum nub! Yeah, yum nub! Oh, we're burning down the people tonight. We're talking about Ewoks, bitches. Yeah, I know. Ewoks, coolest dudes out there. Cuddly little munchkins. Got a bad rap when they first came out, but now they're loved. They're appreciated. There's someone, I'm not going to go into that one again, but I will talk about the intricacy of what is the Ewok village. I mean, people forget that this is a legitimate live set. This is not CGI. Like, it's actually incredible. Let's talk about the Ewok village.
The Ewok village in Return of the Jedi was no simple treehouse. It was a massive elevated set built 20 feet off the studio floor. In fact, it was so high that the actors had to be lifted up by forklifts just to reach it. Constructed on Stage 3, the set blended real and artificial trees with painted backdrops to match the Northern Californian redwood forest where Endor scenes were filmed. Building the set was a challenge. The production team had to make sure it felt authentic, whilst also being safe for the actors inside their heavy 5-piece Ewok costumes. These suits included full head masks, which made visibility difficult, especially when performing stunts. 10 days were spent filming the Ewoks climbing, swinging, and even tumbling through the village as they battled the Empire. Even with the difficulties, the set became one of the most iconic in Star Wars, giving us unforgettable moments like C-3PO's storytelling scene and the final battle against the Empire. The Ewok village wasn't just a setting, it was a key part of the Return of the Jedi experience.
That's me throwing away my lightsaber. We're coming up to one of the places that stored the most iconic scene and Connor from Beyond the Dune Sea and Will of the Force's favourite scene ever in Star Wars. We're talking about the Emperor's Throne Room, a place that generally holds the most mythical version of Luke Skywalker that anyone in the galaxy ever had. You know, they were kind of looking at him going, oh my god, dude, this guy walked out after destroying I nearly said something bad. Palpatine and also Darth Vader. Oh, I got him good. No. I don't know what this is. Let's just talk about the Emperor's Throne Room.
The Emperor's Throne Room was the heart of the Return of the Jedi's climax, a place of ultimate power and final confrontation. Early script drafts placed it deep within a palace, overlooking a lake of lava, but the final version was built on Stage 4, high above the second Death Star, adding to its ominous presence. The set design was carefully crafted to feel intimidating. The towering catwalks, the dark corridors, and the massive 20 by 36 foot window overlooking the space battle all reinforced the Emperor's dominance. That window? Just a black felt on set. ILM later transformed it into one of the most breathtaking shots in the saga. This scene was so important that George Lucas even filmed parts of it himself to ensure that perfect execution. The simplicity of the design, dark tones, minimal lighting, and strategic reflections heightened the emotional weight of Luke's final duel with his father, Darth Vader.
I've only got 3 of the prequel trilogy because 3 of them stuck out to me so much more than the rest. But this one was one of the intricate ones that I saw and I kind of got a little bit fascinated by because this was actually a 2-parter. Believe it or not, they reused this set and this kind of like scene area multiple times because it was to do with mainly Yoda, which is in the prequels. It was still a puppet, which is really, really cool. We're talking about the Jedi Temple.
One of the most iconic locations in Star Wars, the Jedi Temple was designed to feel both ancient and futuristic, a symbol of wisdom and power. Its towering spires were inspired by real-world cathedrals and temples, giving it a sense of grandeur fitting for the Jedi Order. In Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, the temple was almost entirely CGI, allowing for the massive halls, libraries, and council chambers that wouldn't be possible with traditional sets. The Jedi Council Chamber, however, was a practical set, carefully designed to feel regal yet minimalist, reinforcing the idea that the Jedi valued wisdom over wealth. But for all of its grandeur, the temple's fate was tragic. Order 66 turned this place of knowledge into a battleground, with Anakin leading the 501st to wipe out the Jedi. The contrast between this and the temple's serenity and its destruction made for one of the most haunting sequences in Star Wars history.
What do these look like? Hands? Yes, you're right. Wham! Wham, 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 wham! No, we're not talking about hands. We're going to be talking about Jedi starfighters, specifically the starfighters in Episode 3, because there are a couple of concepts before. Doug Chiang, or if I hope I'm saying that right, he designed multiple concepts of the Jedi Starfighter. All of them kind of worked out to be something similar to what the Jedi would actually pick, and it kind of looked a bit more custom to each one. These ones specifically are the ones from the opening crawl. So let's get into the Jedi Starfighter.
Sleek, fast, and deadly. The Jedi Starfighter was designed for Jedi pilots. These ships had no shields, relying instead on agility and the pilot's force abilities to survive in battle. In Attack of the Clones, the Delta 7 Athos-Spike class interceptor was introduced. Its sharp angles and small size showing clear ties to the future TIE fighter. By Revenge of the Sith, we see an upgraded ETA-2 Actus class interceptor, even sleeker and more aggressive, reflecting the growing tension of the Clone Wars. These ships were visually designed as a bridge between the prequels and original trilogies. One of the coolest details, though, the Jedi Starfighters didn't have hyperdrives. Instead, they docked into external hyperspace rings, emphasizing the Jedi's role as warriors who didn't travel alone, but as a part of the Republic's fleet. From Obi-Wan's pursuit of Jango Fett to Anakin leading the assault on the Invisible Hand, Jedi Starfighters gave us some of the most thrilling dogfights in Star Wars and one of the most beautiful opening scenes to date.
Let's start this off with the ending scene of Revenge of the Sith. One of the ones that was so impactful that they had to put it in the trailer and completely ruin the whole movie. Oh my god, Vader, like Anakin turned into Vader. No, it's not like I watched the whole original trilogy, you donkeys. Come on. We're talking about the rehabilitation chamber. Yeah. You probably thought I was going to say more, but I was kind of like, I was stumbling on my words a little bit, but so it kind of looked like I was saying more, but let's just talk about it. The rehabilitation chamber.
Vader's reconstruction chamber at the end of Revenge of the Sith wasn't just a medical facility. It was a visual representation of Anakin Skywalker's final transformation into Darth Vader. Designed to feel cold, mechanical, and almost nightmarish, the set was stark and industrial, bathed in sickly yellow lighting that gave the entire scene an eerie, artificial feel. Unlike the organic environments of Mustafar or Coruscant, this chamber was sterile and lifeless, mirroring Anakin's loss of humanity. The operating table, suspended in the center of the room, was reminiscent of Frankenstein's lab, intentionally evoking classic horror imagery as Palpatine's creation was pieced back together. The surrounding machinery, with its long mechanical arms and sterile surgical tools, reinforced the sense that this was no ordinary medical procedure. This was the forced rebirth of a Sith Lord. To make Vader's reconstruction as unsettling as possible, practical effects and CGI were blended seamlessly. Hayden Christensen was filmed on a real operating table, while mechanical props and robotic arms moved around him. The helmet's lowering was a combination of physical prop and digital enhancements, ensuring that Vader's first breath had maximum impact. Even the sound design played a role. The hissing of pressurized seals and the harsh, echoing breathing created an almost suffocating atmosphere. This set was the final bridge between the prequel and original trilogies. The dark, clinical aesthetic foreshadowed the Empire's dominance, and the moment Vader rises is framed deliberately to mirror his imposing presence in A New Hope. It's a masterful piece of set design that turned a simple operating room into one of the most haunting moments in Star Wars history.
Shh, they don't have to know about us. Oh, the camera's on. Look, guys, I hope you love this book more now than you've ever seen before, if you've ever seen it. I've never seen this in my life. I mean, J.W. Rinzler, he did the most beautiful job at capturing everything to do with anyone that worked on every part of the Star Wars sets on both the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. I mean, this book has genuinely become so close to me. I mean, so close to my heart. It's something that I'm genuinely, like I said before, I'm going to treasure for the rest of my time being a Star Wars fan. I hope this kind of showed a different bit of a light on the production side of it. You get to see the art that was involved in creating this beautiful spectacle that is the Star Wars universe. Something that took a lot of work from a lot of very talented people. People that are far beyond my means of creativity. Thank you all so much for watching this far. If you have, I appreciate you so much. For anyone who is interested in buying this book, you can't buy it off me. You can't. You can't buy it off me. I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry. This is going to be a part of mine. But if anyone's actually keen, like genuinely go buy that online. I'm not going to put a link down because I'm not an affiliate of anything. And it's kind of like, you know, there's so many different websites that are going to work for so many different countries. I'd recommend, I saw this on Amazon for $150. It's probably going to be your cheapest. Go to like somewhere that does wholesaling like Amazon. One thing I will say, tell me down below if you want to see these as a Reels kind of set. I'm going to be doing, potentially, if you guys are liking it and you like the idea of it, I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of reels on these bad boys, kind of like every day or every couple of days. I'll be doing a reel on one of these blueprints, making it all the way through the book. Because it's like 300 and something pages, I'll talk about everything to do with Mos Eisley. Oh my God, I just opened up to a page. Really, really cool. Yeah, so again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for hopefully enjoying, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Remember, next week, I've got my Blades and Beskar. I don't know if I'm going to be doing it on Wednesday. I might change it to another day. I'm just kind of like, I'm testing out what times work best for everyone. You know, what's going to kind of maximize the amount of people that it goes to. That's actually one thing. If you do like my Blades and Beskar, which is my Lord of the Rings and Star Wars fusion series, where I just kind of do a collaboration every week, talk about something. It doesn't have to be long. It can be short. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to talk about everything that I see, correlations between, oh my God, what are they doing? In between the Star Wars and Lord of the Rings universe. Something really, really cool. So I really like it. I think Blades and Beskar is the coolest name ever as well. Come on. I was thinking Blades of Beskar, but Blades and Beskar works much better because it's like a collaboration. They're just kind of like, they're connecting little private parts. You know what I mean? So let me know what time works for you guys, if you guys actually want to see more of that, or if you don't want to see any more of it. I'm actually all here for that. Like, I want to tailor this channel so that everyone can enjoy as much as they can, and I can still have that creative outlet. So, love you all. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to be doing an episode next Saturday, 7 p.m. AEDT. I'll give you a little bit of a hint. It's going to be something that I don't even know of yet. I kind of think of my ideas on Mondays, and then I work with it. I'm going to be doing a fan segment for this next one, though, potentially, if I remember. I might not remember. Let me know. If you got any questions, put it down below. I reply to every single message. So chuck it out there. This has gone for too long. This is meant to be a short conclusion. I'm sorry. And don't get angry at me, please. If you guys want to see my tattoo tour, I realized, oh my God, that dark humor, but that looks like something really bad. I didn't even realize that. Didn't even realize that. Love you all so much. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao, motherfuckers.